Hey everybody. So in these last couple of videos, they're pretty short and they kind of just go over some additional terms. And in this case, we're talking about non-respiratory air movements. So in other words, things that are slightly different than just your regular inspiration or expirations. I know we've all experienced these, so let's talk about them one by one. Number one, coughing. This is when a deep breath is taken, the glottis closes, and air is forced against that closure. So it forces the glottis back open, and a blast of air is passed upwards. So why would you do this? Ironically, I just coughed. I paused the video so you didn't have to hear that. But why are you doing this? It's to clear out anything that is in there. So sometimes your body recognizes there's something might be in your throat, and so therefore a cough happens to try to force as much air out as possible, and therefore take anything that's in the airway with it out. Sneezing, very similar. Same as a cough, except the air is going to be moving through the nasal cavity by depressing the uvula. So instead of just going back out through the glottis, we're going to force this through the nasal cavity, specifically to clear the upper respiratory passages. Laughing, this is just when you're happy. You're going to take deep breaths, and when doing so, you're going to release it in a series of short expirations, right? So you're taking a deep breath in, and you're just short little expirations out. Happiness. I mean, it's pretty much the same thing as crying, right? So the only difference is instead of being happy, you're sad, unless it's a happy cry, I guess, or a sad laugh. I don't even know. All right, next up, hiccuping. We talked about that briefly in the last one. Your diaphragm is going to contract, right? It's going to have a muscle spasm. When that happens, it's just going to force air into the lungs, right? So every time that diaphragm contracts, it's going to force you to breathe in. Yawning. Yawning is when you take a deep breath, right? And I will actually show an image for this one. So I'm going to go back a couple slides. So when we look, as we go back in time here to a trachea, right? So if we look here, let's say on the left-hand side, the trachea, if you're doing a tidal, if you're breathing with a tidal volume, you're constantly inhaling and exhaling, but not a lot of volume. So therefore, over time, the trachea, you may just be recycling a lot of the same air, breathing in and out. In other words, whatever air is here, let's say, where my little red dot is, when you exhale, it's going to move up, but it may not leave the respiratory system. When you breathe back in, it goes right back to where it was. So in other words, that air just keeps going up and down. It never really leaves. Some of the air does, and new air comes in too, right? However, sometimes there's some dead air. Because of that, over time, if this air is not leaving, you're not getting any new oxygen, your body is just going to force you to have a deep breath and force all that air out. So you can suck in all new air and continually go through tidal breathing. And then the last one is speech, right? So you're going to force air through the vocal cords, which is going to cause the vocal cords to vibrate, and therefore you can speak. So if you have any questions on these non-respiratory air movements, please let me know.